One of the most important things for diabetics to understand is insulin resistance. Whether you have been dealing with LADA from, 5-10 years ago, or whether you were newly diagnosed, understanding insulin resistance and how to decrease that is vital for managing your diabetes. Hey, I'm Fiona from Living with LADA. I am a LADA diabetic of 4 years, an exercise physiologist, personal trainer, and now I coach LADA diabetics one-on-one how to decrease their insulin resistance, lower their A1C, and live free in their diagnosis. If you're new to the channel, feel free to like or subscribe for more information that will help you to manage your diabetes. But other than that, we're going to talk about insulin resistance today, really just a high-level overview of what it is, how to decrease it, some different things that affect it. And then if you want to do a deeper dive on that, if it's something that you want to learn more about, comment below so that I know that you're interested, and I'll make sure to record something for you in the future. So the first thing to understand is what insulin resistance is, and then why it's even important for diabetics. So one of the things that I love to preface with is that insulin works kind of like a key in the lock with your cells. So the insulin is released from the body and it goes to the cell, and it basically wants to knock on the door and bind with a receptor. The key goes into the lock on that receptor. Well, if your body is highly insulin resistant, what happens is the cell doesn't want to let the insulin inside, and so the insulin that your body is releasing is not able to do its job as well. And then for us LADA diabetics, type 1 diabetics, or even type 2 who are on insulin, we're also using that synthetic form of insulin. So it doesn't matter what insulin we're talking about here. It can be whether it's your body's natural created insulin or whether it's the synthetic insulin that you are taking to manage your blood sugar. If your body is really insulin resistant, then it doesn't really bind with the cell the way that it should, which means it's not going to work as effectively as it could. And then that usually ends up with you taking more and more insulin in order to manage your blood sugar in the same way. I also think it's important to cover what causes insulin resistance. And so to sort of simplify this down as much as I can, what causes insulin resistance is fat in your body in places that it's not supposed to be. So typically when your body gets to a point where it has enough fat to survive and then it's got extra fat, instead of just storing that fat in the places that it would typically store it in, it kind of starts just shoving fat cells in places that it doesn't necessarily belong, right? Or it doesn't need to be. That could be within your muscle tissue. It could be extra fat around your organs, your visceral fat. But the key here is that all of this excess fat that is stored in other places makes your insulin less effective with your cells, and that is the thing that we want to reduce as much as possible. So if we're more insulin sensitive, then we're less insulin resistant, which means that we can use less insulin and get the same effect, keeping our blood sugar in range as much as possible. I fully believe this is something that you must know and understand to effectively manage your diabetes and minimize your side effects. So let's get into how do we lower our insulin resistance so that our insulin works better, whether again it's from the body or whether it's synthetic. So it's really key to be able to understand what is causing insulin resistance and how to lower insulin resistance so that we can spend more time in range using less insulin, which is ideal for long-term health for a lot of diabetics, type 1s, or even type 2s. So this is important for all diabetics. However, I specifically coach LADA diabetics. So now we know what insulin resistance is and what causes it. So the key thing we want to do is decrease that insulin resistance, which is going to mean decreasing that fat in places where it's not supposed to be. The first place that your brain jumps is going to be diet. Right? And yes, diet is incredibly important. And when I say diet, I don't mean like this is a short period thing that we do to lose weight. I mean it in the lifestyle way. Your diet is what you eat consistently over a long period of time as a lifestyle. So that's how I'm referring to diet here in this video. So your diet, what you eat, is vital to decreasing your insulin resistance and therefore increasing your insulin sensitivity. If excess fat is what causes insulin resistance and we want to lower that excess fat, it makes sense that we also want to decrease certain fats in our diet. Now, we don't want to go fat-free because we do need some healthy fats in our diet. However, decreasing our oils and saturated fats that we get from fatty animal products is going to be really key here. The other thing diet-wise that you can do is decrease all of the sugary stuff. So the refined sugars, refined carbohydrates, cookies, breads, cakes, donuts, all of the things that we love, your breakfast cereals, things like that are going to be also turned into fat in your body. And so if we're eating this stuff in excess, which most Americans, let's face it, a lot of people in the world are, then we want to decrease that, which is going to in time lead to a decrease in that body fat in places that it's not supposed to be. Now, when can you expect to see results from this? Because we know that it takes time to lose fat. Well, the great thing about changing your diet is that it doesn't take a long time to see the effects. In fact, I would even caution you to do this slowly. So don't completely change your diet all at one time, but maybe try just starting off with breakfast. We're not going to do refined carbohydrates, and we're not going to do high fat for breakfast for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so that we can see the difference in our insulin use and really get used to that. Because if we change all 3 meals at one time, one, it's gonna make it overwhelming. We're probably more likely to fail, and we're definitely more likely to have lows in our blood sugar because our bodies are used to being insulin resistant. Our ratios are set for our insulin resistance. And so if we all of a sudden drastically decrease that, then it's going to make a big difference in our numbers. Okay, so we've covered the nutritional aspect of it. Super, super basic, guys, on that. So let's keep it that way while we kind of get used to it. And again, if you're interested in more of a deep dive on anything that I cover in any of my videos, comment below. I'm always looking for new ideas that can help you guys to manage your LADA diabetes better. All right, so the next thing then is going to be exercise. And of course, none of us want to hear this if we're happy with our activity levels. And this doesn't have to be some crazy workout. We don't have to do HIIT. This doesn't have to be really vigorous. This is really any physical activity. So we're going to look at a couple different ways that we can kind of increase our activity level without drastically changing our lifestyle so that we can decrease that insulin resistance again. Okay, so the first thing to do would be daily walks, or at least incorporating walks after meals. And if you can't do this for every single meal, no worries. I totally get it. Just try to aim for 20 to 30 minutes of walking in at least 10-minute segments. So that could be 30-minute walk every night after dinner, or every morning before work, or every day on your lunch break. Or you could actually try to break that up into 10-minute bouts of walking, say after meals. So after I eat breakfast, I do a quick 10-minute walk. After I eat lunch, after I eat dinner, you get the picture. So just by doing this, one, we're breaking up our sedentary time, or the time we spend sitting, which for those of us who work behind a desk, it's extremely important to break up your sedentary time. And that's another way that we can actually increase our insulin sensitivity. So incorporate walking, break up your sedentary time. If you want to lift weights, if you want to do HIIT, you love that, you're into CrossFit, yoga, all of those things, any physical activity is going to help to decrease your insulin resistance. So again, it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but if that's something that's really difficult for you, don't be discouraged. Work in a 10-minute walk every day and then increase next week to 15 minutes. 20, work yourself up to 30, at least 5 days a week, but preferably every day. Walking is something that is amazing for fat loss because it's actually putting us in our aerobic fat burning mode, which is going to burn more fat, and you're going to see a lot of results here with decreasing your insulin resistance. Okay, so just to review, insulin resistance is bad. We want to decrease it as much as we can. What causes it is excess fat in places it shouldn't be. So we're going to fix our lifestyle by decreasing saturated fat and oils in our food, and we're going to increase our exercise, breaking up all of that time we spend sitting. These are the best ways that you can increase your insulin sensitivity, aka decrease your insulin resistance, which is going to help you to manage your blood sugar long term. I hope this was helpful. If you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up, like, comment, or subscribe. It really supports my channel. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I'll post a link below so you can apply. Hope to hear from you soon.